This is the next video in the Historic Ordnance series. It's going to be on the Russian MON, M-O-N-90 directional mine. This essentially is a claymore on steroids. This mine was developed by the Soviets sometime in the 1980s, appears to have been adopted by the Soviet Army in the mid to late 1980s. The first documented use of it in combat that I could find is Chechnya in the 90s. But it is not that inconceivable that the Soviets may have sent a few into Afghanistan for testing by Spetsnaz, their special forces, and possibly by their airborne troops. Now you can get a good picture here of the mine itself in comparison to the size of the soldier behind it. This below it is the crate that the mine and all its accessories are issued in. When the crate is full, it has the mine and all accessory pieces are inside it. The weight is 51 pounds. There is only one mine per crate. And also contents inside that crate include a handle, 4 extremely long nails, 2 priming adapters, 2 emplacement adapters, and 2 detonator or blasting cap tubes or cases. The firing device, the blasting cap, detonators, none of that stuff is included in that crate. That is a separate issue item. Now you see here the markings that will be on the front side of the crate in Cyrillic, letting you know that's what is inside. Another little telltale is the very top of the box here in the middle. There's a giant metal plate with a plug in the center. The reason for that is you can use the lid as a means of emplacing or employing the mine. The mine does not have scissor legs on it like the Russian MON-90 or the American M18A1 Claymore. This mine is meant to be an anti-personnel mine, but it is capable of shredding unarmored vehicles and seriously damaging lightly armored vehicles. It will do little to nothing other than put a few poke marks and scratch some paint on tanks, armored personnel carriers, or infantry fighting vehicles. Down here, these mines have been copied in Syria by the Syrian rebels. This is an example of a Syrian-made MON-90 IED. When they made it, or continue to make it, they essentially cut out pieces of rebar, weld it all together, pack it with explosives, and create themselves a mine. Now, some technicals on this mine. The weight of the mine itself is 26 2/3 pounds. That makes it as heavy as an anti-tank mine. The explosive content inside is 13 2/3 pounds. It is an RDX-based plastic explosive. I could not find the actual Russian name for the explosive, but I could find the mix of what is inside that explosive compound. It is 85% RDX, which is rapidly detonating explosive, 10% mineral oil, and 5% butyl rubber. Dimensions on the mine: 8 inches high, 6 inches from front to back, 13.5 inches across. The stated temp ranges for this mine for standard or optimal operating temps is -58 to 122 degrees Fahrenheit. Lower than that, you run the risk that the material will not detonate. higher than 122 degrees, you run the risk that the damn thing might prematurely detonate when you don't want it to. Some features on the mine here. Top view, bottom view. First we're going to start from the bottom because that's how it's placed inside the crate. It's placed in the crate bottom side up because there is a canvas carrying strap on there. You also have in the center here a socket, a threaded one, for screwing the mine onto the emplacement adapter. The front of the mine here, it states "to the enemy" in Cyrillic. On the top of the mine here, you have two detonator or blasting cap wells. And there is a note in Russian literature that the thread on those wells at the top are the same as on the MD5M fuse. In between, oh, I should mention there are two plastic transport caps that are on the mine when you pull it out of the crate. In the center between the two blasting cap wells, you have the sights. The rear sight is kind of a square notch sight. The front is kind of a post. When you actually look at it from back to front, it looks similar to the sights you would see on an SKS or on a Mosin-Nagant rifle. So they made it really simple for the troops to understand. Nothing extremely special on it. Also in the center here between the sights, there is an arrow pointing to the front of the mine, with the constant notes through the literature when emplacing the mine. Make sure that the arrow is pointing to the enemy and not to yourself. Now the kill zone on the mine, for its effectiveness, when it detonates, it covers a 54-degree arc in front of the mine. The kill zone extends out to 90 meters. Past that, you cannot guarantee a kill, so that's considered wound radius. The extreme edges of the arc out at 90 meters is 60 meters wide. The height of the cone is 8 meters up from the ground. Danger area around the mine is an arc of 120 degrees from the sides, going all the way across. The guaranteed kill zone, according to the Russian manual, is up to 51 meters in front of the mine. Guaranteed wound zone is up to 63 meters in front of the mine. Past that, it starts to spread out like a shotgun blast, and there is a possibility you may end up with an enemy who will not catch a fragment. Now, danger areas to the front of mine go out as far as 300 meters. You could catch a chunk of shrapnel. For the sides and rear, the danger area is up to 125 meters that you could catch a chunk of shrapnel. The doctrinal safety distances, according to the Russian manual for training, is anything closer than 35 meters to the rear. You must be behind substantial cover to prevent being injured. In combat, this safety distance is dropped down to 15 meters. Now, how much is actually packed in here for actual casualty-causing material other than the explosive? On the front of the mine, right behind the plate, is 2,000 7-meter long or wide rods or ball bearings. The initial runs of the MON-90, they were filled with ball bearings, and then sometime within the first year to 2 years, not even the Russians or the Soviets know when, the contents were changed to 7mm pieces of rod. So essentially round stock that was cut off to a length of 7mm. These 2,000 pieces of metal are held in place on the front of the mine in front of the explosive by epoxy resin. I should make a note here also, I did not mention it. At the base of the cap wells, the very bottom of the cap wells here, right below where the blasting cap is going to sit, there's what's referred to as a intermediate detonator, or in US and Western literature, a booster charge. There is so much explosive in there that through testing they found out they can't guarantee it will not detonate fully unless there is a small booster charge inside there to set off all that explosive content. You see this with some of the other Russian mines, and you also see this in Western mines also, especially with anti-tank mines because of the volume of explosive inside. So this is not unheard of. Now, when you employ the mine and you put it in a command detonation mode, you need a PN series manual inductor, as they call it in the Russian manual, or as we call it in the West, a blast machine. This essentially is just a giant red push button on top of a generator. This is attached to the firing wire coming off of either an EDP or an EDPR electric blasting cap. Now, if you put this mine in a booby trap mode, you need to use one of the fuses from the MOV series, MUV, which are primarily a pull actuated booby trap fuse, or you can use an MVZ brake wire firing device, or you can employ the VP13 seismic firing device. If you use the MVE72 or the VP13, you will be using the EDPR or the EDP electric blasting cap to set off the mine. If you are using one of the MOV series booby trap fuses, it must be connected to either an MD2 or an MD5M detonator. There is no self-destruct on these mines, and there is no internal anti-handling device. Standard times, according to Russian doctrine, for emplacement. In warmer weather, 8 to 10 minutes for emplacing a single mine. In colder weather, you're dealing with gloves, freezing temps and that stuff. It is relaxed to a max of 15 minutes to emplace a single mine. Both of those times are for command detonated. Now, what's actually in the crate here, and I'll see if I can help you out a little bit. There, I can point out the stuff that actually matters here. Now, we have the crate here that's opened up. This is the back side of the crate on this side. The front side that has the markings is actually over here. So most of the accessories are along the front of the box, with the mine in the middle, and as you can see, the carrying strap is facing up. So inside the crate, you obviously have the mine, which is in the middle. You have a handle, which is this thing here, located in this position. Next to it, you have 4 extremely long nails. They appear to be 8 to 10 inches in length. They're also in the middle and the front. You also have 2 emplacement adapters, which are in this position in this corner on the crate. So it would be, as you're looking at it, the lower right hand corner. You have 2 metal priming adapters, which are in the lower left hand corner as you're looking at it. You also have, next to the priming adapters, the packing list for the crate with the dates of when the items were manufactured. Here in the front, on the right hand side, in this round shaped cut here, you have the 2 cases or tubes for the detonators. That's what these are in this picture up here. Color of those cases is blue with green stripes. The color markings in the West, in NATO, are not the same as employed by Russia. In the West, blue denotes it is a training aid. That is not the same in Russia. They use different colors. Now this giant thing here in this picture, that is a spike for emplacing this mine in a tree or next to a tree. That spike is on the back side of the case here, right behind the mine, going all the way across. Double checking my notes, see if there's any other information. Okay, we got the specifics on the mine, so now we're going to go into emplacement. First off, we're going to go emplacing the mine using the lid of the crate as the base. You can use the lid of the crate on grass or any type of solid ground or loose ground like sand. This takes the place of the scissor legs that you see on a standard claymore mine. If you are emplacing the mine in winter conditions, it's going in snow and the depth of the snow is greater than 12 inches, according to Russian doctrine, you're going to put that lid back on the crate, dig a hole for the crate, put the crate down in the hole, attach the mine on top above the level of the snow, and then you camouflage it. The maximum depth of snow that you can put on the front of the mine is 9 inches. Now we got that technical out of the way. What are the steps for emplacing the mine on the lid of the crate? First thing you are going to do is you're going to remove from the crate the mine, the nails, if you're emplacing it directly on the lid on the ground, the one emplacement adapter, the handle, and that's it from that crate. Oh, I should also put in there one priming adapter for holding the blasting wire in. Go through, inspect the mine and the items. The mine is plastic case, so there is the risk that the mine could end up getting damaged by getting cracked. As long as there's nothing leaking out of the crack, the explosive inside seems okay, the mine can be used. So we're going to put our lid on the ground here. Place the lid on the ground and secure it to the ground with the nails. If you're going to be emplacing it with the crate out in the open, using the crate as kind of a base to lift it up over an obstacle, fill the crate with rocks, dirt or debris to stabilize it so it does not tip over before you can set the mine off. If you are putting it on the crate in snow, you stabilize it with the snow. Don't have to worry too much about putting junk inside the crate. At this point, you are going to unscrew the plug that's on the plate in the center of the lid. Make sure the threads aren't too messed up, but since you were able to get these plug unscrewed, the thread should be just fine. Now you are going to screw the emplacement adapter into the socket on the bottom of the mine. The emplacement adapter, on one end of it is a narrower thread, or is narrower end, it is threaded. On the other end it is larger, and that is also threaded. Obviously the larger threaded end will screw into the lid. The narrower threaded end will screw into the bottom of the mine. Between those two ends, it says in the manual that the material is quote-unquote weakened, meaning it's a narrower gauge. The reason for this is so that you can do minor adjustments by bending that adapter as needed. But don't get too crazy with it because they can break. So we've screwed the adapter to the bottom of the mine. Then you are going to take the handle and you are going to screw it. And here's the handle here and here. So it's going to be curved facing up or bend facing up. You're going to screw that onto the bottom of the emplacement adapter. Now you're going to screw the mine to the lid and get it roughly sighted on your kill zone. Then you're going to go through and you're going to dial in your sights, so to speak, on the mine. You pick a point that is 1.5 or 1.5 meters high, so about 4.5 feet off the ground, at a location 60 to 80 meters in front of the mine. This can be done with a person, and if you do it with a person, you're going to be aiming for essentially their abdomen. Make sure if you're using a person, you do not have a blasting cap in the mine when you are checking the site. After you have the sights dialed in, you are going to use the handle to tighten the mine down onto the crate. You just twist it a little bit till it snugs it up real good. That will lock the mine in position onto the kill zone. At that point, definitely make sure the person that was helping you out as your dummy target moves to behind the mines. Make sure there is no one in the kill zone in front of the mines before you continue with your next steps. Once the kill zone is clear, you will arm the mine. In this step, you will remove one or more of the shipping plugs from the top of the mine. If you're putting it into command detonation, you will take your electric blasting cap, you will run the wire through the notch on the side of the one of the priming adapters. Insert the blasting cap all the way down into the fuse well on the mine. Screw the priming adapter down into the mine. Snug it up. Don't crank it down to secure the blasting cap in place. Then camouflage your mine, putting a brush or some other material in front. Nothing too substantial that will interfere with the mine. Then run your firing wire back to your firing position, and at that point Russian literature says attach your PN series blast machine. There is no step for checking continuity of the firing wire in the Russian manual, but I will make my own personal note on this. If you have a blasting cap tester, I would recommend checking that blasting wire to make sure it works before attaching your blast machine to it. If there is a break in continuity on that firing wire somewhere, move forward, replace that electric blasting cap with attached firing wire. Then go through, check the continuity again. If it passes at that point, then attach your blast machine. There is a note in the Russian manual. If the handle has been tightened down, securing the mine in place, do not attempt to bend the emplacement adapter. Reason for it, it could break. That's why they put 2 emplacement adapters in each crate. Now, if you're emplacing it onto the side of a tree, first, remove from the crate the mine, the spike, the emplacement adapter, the handle, and 1 priming adapter. Inspect all pieces. Same rules for if there's damage to the mine as I gave you for emplacing on the lid. Everything passes inspection. You will then move forward and you are going to hammer a spike into the side of a tree, doing as best as possible to make sure that the hole that is in the thick end of the spike here is vertical, straight up and down. You're supposed to use a hammer or the back of an axe for emplacing the spike. At this point, you begin prepping your mine. You will screw the emplacement adapter into the socket on the bottom of the mine. Screw the handle onto the adapter. You will then screw the mine onto the spike and get it generally sighted in onto your kill zone. Then go through and confirm your sighting once again, aiming at a point that is approximately 1.5 meters high at a location 60 to 80 meters in front of the mine. If you're using a person, make sure that after you get it dialed in and you got the handle tightened down on the spike here, locking the mine in place, signal that person to quickly move at a high rate of speed to out of the killing zone. Once no one is inside the kill zone, you will arm the mine. You will remove 1 or more of the transport plugs. You will then take the firing wire from your electric blasting cap, run it through the side of your priming adapter, lower the priming adapter down to just above the blasting cap, insert the blasting cap into the fuse well on the mine, and hand tighten the priming adapter onto the mine, securing the blasting cap in place. Then camouflage your mine as best you can. Make it look like a branch sticking out the side of the tree, or put a bush in front of it, whatever is available. Then run your firing wire back to your firing point. At that point, if you have the means to do a continuity test without setting off the blasting cap, I recommend go through and do it. Otherwise, Russian literature says as soon as you're back to your firing point, connect on your PN series blast machine. Now, I'm not going to give you the steps for emplacing these mines in booby trap mode, because those are their own separate steps in the manual, and I'm not going to go through and give that to you. Truthfully, you can probably get most of those steps from some of the other videos I have done. Now, for removal of the MON-90 from its firing position. First thing you are going to do is disconnect the blast machine from the firing wire. Then you are going to follow that firing wire forward to the location of the mine. Remove the camouflage from around the mine. Remove the blasting cap from the fuse well and re-emplace the transport plug if you haven't lost it. At that point, you will remove the mine from whatever it's attached to, whether it's the lid on the ground or the stake on the tree. You will then either pry up the lid off the ground or the crate out of the snow, or somehow get that spike out of the tree. There is a note that if you employ this mine with the MVZ break wire firing device, you are not allowed to attempt to remove the mine because it is too dangerous, and you are supposed to blow it in place. There you go. You got all the basic steps for emplacing a MON-90 directional mine. These things are a monster. They will punch through one side and out the other side of an unarmored vehicle, and quite possibly will do the same to a lightly armored vehicle. You do not want to be in front of these things. There is videos out of Russia on YouTube showing the effects of what happens when one of these mines are set off, setting it off against a bus, against a light truck, cargo trucks, and that type of stuff, and it is devastating. I can see why the Russians came up with something like this.